You're listening to Drinks and a Movie with your host, Rudy. Spoiler alert.
All right, recording. Drinks and Movie Podcast. Everyone, I'm back with co-host Matt.
And the red light is on. It's actually recording.
I'm
Okay,
always double checking. Today, we're going to be talking about M. Night Shyamalan's, I think, was this his second film?
Major studio release, as far as I know. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what he released before Sixth Sense, so did he?
I'll look that up right now. Yeah, because now, well, we're going to be talking about Unbreakable.
Yes.
M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable.
He does have some credits. Wide Awake, released by Miramax. So there was a film before this. And then Praying with Anger, which looks like the distributor was a very limited release. But Wide Awake, did that make it into theaters?
I think that was. I remember seeing commercials for that with Rosie
Dennis Leary,
O'Donnell.
Dana Delaney, Joseph Cross, and Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah.
Huh. I don't even remember this one.
I vaguely remember the commercial.
Jeez.
But yeah, clearly The Sixth Sense was like the career maker.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so
right.
1999.
$1
And then in 2000, we get Unbreakable starring Samuel Jackson and Bruce Willis. Before we get into this movie, though, we're going to be doing a little blind tasting here.
Hey-yo.
I've got quite a few Sagamore Spirit barrel picks. So I just thought it'd be fun, especially since Matt recently is like a really big Sagamore fan. Like
you converted me to the cult.
Yeah.
This stuff is so good.
I was like, man, I got all these single barrel picks I haven't tried in a while. So let's do a little blind tasting, see how different they really are. These are all pretty older. I've had these for a while, so these specific bottles probably aren't on the shelves anymore, but you can find, Sagamore picks, a lot of BevMos, like a lot of Total Wines all the time. High Times in Costa Mesa has a pick. I haven't gotten theirs yet. I'm sure it's great. A lot of stores got them. So we've got one from BevMo. We've got one from Total Wine. We've got one from Reserve Bar, a pick by Brian Schmidt, who's a friend of the show. And then we have one from, I think it's the Los Angeles Bourbon Society. That one I got from Mission Wine and Spirits in Pasadena. So I'm not familiar with that group outside of that. I don't know if it's like the people that run the store, like some whole other separate group that puts money to get it together. But we've got their pick. So yeah.
And just to kind of, I know most people listening to this probably already know this, but like the recipe is the same. It's just the barrel aging process. All that stuff is all the same except for the barrel that it's actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not batched for their flagship or their double oaked or anything like that.
Cool.
It's just, hey, you want to buy this barrel, and then you go and buy it. So I think these are all 110 proof straight rye whiskey. They are various ages. Two of them are age stated. One, I think the Total Wine is 7 years, and there's another one that is 6 years. I'm not sure about the other two.
And I'm wondering if like they offer that to Total Wine, or did Total Wine request that it stays an extra. I'm curious how. I mean, I don't know that process, but it is.
Yeah, I don't even know. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if BevMo and Total Wine don't have someone actually go and taste it. It's probably just like, just send us one.
Right.
Because they're so big.
Yeah.
Like, just give us like 8 of them for the country, you know?
Totally.
Or probably more than 8.
Oh, yeah, it'd be more than 8.
Anyway, here we go.
Okay.
So glass number 1. Right. It's very pleasant. Glass number 1 is very, very pleasant.
I mean, their flagship's great. I don't know. I don't know why I don't have my last bottle. I just finished like a couple weeks ago, and I haven't replaced it yet. And I need to. The stuff's so good.
Was that the double oak?
It was the double oak. Yeah. So far has been my favorite. I know everyone's thankfully got their own favorite at this point, but you can't go wrong with the flagship, man. This is like good shit.
That's right. I forgot to bring my little 375 milliliter of like the normal 80 proof Sagamore because that's usually what we'll warm up with. I forgot that. Okay. I don't have much to say about that one. It's a little on the muted side. Here we go. Glass number 2.
We did cleanse the palate with some OGD.
Yeah. Old Granddad Bonded.
So this definitely is different than that.
So the nose is a little different. Not as much as I would hope for. I think the second one is maybe...
Feels a tad more muted to me, to be honest with you. On the nose.
Oh, yeah. I think for me, it's a little more kind of weird, like grassy, minty maybe.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, man. One is just... great on the nose. Dang. All right, here we go. Glass 2.
I get the nose right as I'm getting close to the glass. 2, I actually have to put my nose in there. Remember, don't trust my nose, all my sinuses and stuff. But
these are all about the same. I'm drinking like the same amount from all of them too. So there's not one that's going to be way flatter than the other.
This actually tastes different to me.
It is quite different. It's less, not as peppery. Not like the spice was a little more punchy on the first one. This one's a little softer.
Agreed. Totally
Maybe a little more of a sweeter vanilla characteristic, I think.
I totally agree with that. Interesting. I'm still getting a similar amount of the sweet that's there, which isn't much in my opinion, but that's just my taste buds. But yeah, definitely less of the heat, especially up front. I didn't think that was. I'm kind of expecting all these to kind of be the same, but not the same as one.
That's what I want to see. Like, because sometimes if there's anyone I'm going to trust, it's Sagamore. You know?
Yeah.
But it's like, and you've done it with me. Chris and I have done it where we've done like Buffalo Trace picks, and it's like, this does not seem different.
No.
Like this, I'm pretty sure this is the same stuff.
Right. Yeah. But this one, that one, 2 is definitely different than 1.
Yeah.
So interesting. So that's just simply by aging it in the barrel. Now, I feel like this is such a drop, but having visited the distillery, I do know that they're where they keep the barrels is pretty important to them as well. So,
Yeah, and it's crazy that they're all going to be different. Like 2 barrels can literally be side by side, and they're still going to be different, which is interesting.
So wild.
Here we go, glass number 3. Yeah, right now I don't even know which one I would like more. They're both good, 1 and 2.
Yeah, they're both good
just in like different ways.
I tend towards 1 just a little bit. I like a little bit more of that heat, but that's just me personally. Oh, this one has, for me, this one's even less strong than all the first 2.
This one's more muted.
I really got to stick my nose in there to get some. Oh, no, even when I've been out in there.
This one's got a little more of a caramel characteristic to me.
Totally agree.
Yeah, it's a little more caramel, vanilla.
Having never tasted any of these before, too, I couldn't tell you, oh, that must be this one, that must be this one. The only thing I would guess is the aging. Ooh, that's good. So once again, it doesn't have the pepper and heat for me that number 1 did. However, there seems to be a little bit more flavor in there. And specifically, like you were saying, that caramel almost, I'm getting that when I taste it.
I honestly can't really decipher the palate at all, but it really like coated my whole mouth in a very different way.
This one just felt like a full.
Yeah.
It's similar to 2. I will say that this one is similar to 2, but for me, it like you were saying, coated the whole palate area, the whole taste buds.
That one's interesting. It's probably my least favorite.
Oh, interesting.
I wonder if that's Reserve Bar. We'll see, because that one I for sure liked the least of these.
Literally forgot, so I couldn't tell you. By the way, and I only wrote these down like 5 minutes ago, and I still can't remember.
That's what I was hoping for.
Yeah,
that's why I was afraid to do it myself. But I know in the past I have done it, and I've forgotten by the time we started. But
the way our brains work.
Yeah. All right, glass number 4, very light. On the nose.
Light, similar to the last 2 on the nose.
Reminds me more of glass 1 for sure.
Yeah, I would say out of the last 2 we've had, it's a little bit stronger than those.
Man, I almost wish it was the holidays again, dude. Because Sagamore, I think because I was drinking so much of like the Palo Cortado and the sherry and the double oaked and all that during the Christmas season, and it's just they're perfect for that. That like I smell it and I just wish it was wintertime.
But have you had the port finish yet?
No.
Okay.
No.
I saw a bottle of it the other day at a liquor store I was at, and I was like,
wait, really?
Yeah.
What store?
In Vegas. When I was at NAB recently, and and it was over. I think it was $200, and I'm like, "Are you fucking serious?" Yeah, they everything, probably because it's right off the strip, but everything was marked up ridiculous. Yeah. They had just a normal Knob Creek. I think it was like, I don't know, $80 or something like that. I could not believe what I was seeing, but
yeah, now it makes sense that port finish was still there, because I don't think they've put one out for a while.
Got
a
it.
few
Okay.
years.
I haven't had it yet, and I enjoy myself a glass of port every once in a while, and especially like after dessert or something like that. But I was like, I can't bring myself to.
Yeah, definitely not. Sooner or later, it'll get released here at some point. Yeah, that one I really need to try, because I would love to compare it to Midwinter Night's Dram. You know,
if I see a bottle reasonably priced, I'll pick it up. You're right. This is closer to 1. That's in the running.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I agree, dude. Totally different. Not totally, but definitely different than the last 2. Closer to 1, just on that heat up front.
I don't know that it quite finishes as well, though. 3 probably has the longest finish, but it's not like pleasant to me.
Well, these are the same proof. That's wild to me. It's also wild to me how differently they can taste. Mm-hmm. These, so having tried all 4 now, they're 2 and 3 are similar, 1 and 4 are similar, but those are different.
Yeah,
They aren't kidding around.
Let me go back to 1.
For me, one's got more heat than 4.
Really?
Yeah, for me.
Yeah, I think they've all, as far as like proofiness, I think they've all been pretty consistent to me.
Yeah.
Like for me, there's not one that's like, oh, this tastes, which is always interesting that when that happens, when you drink something that's like 124 proof and you're like, really? Shit, this is like super easy. Or even something that's way less and it tastes like super proofy.
Yeah. Well, I would definitely say so far for my favorites, I would put it in order from 4, 3, 1, 2. Like 2. Probably
4, 3, 1, 2.
Yeah, it's close though. 1 and 3, I would very close for me. I tend to enjoy a little bit more of the heat when I'm drinking. So, but 3, that it's like you're saying, that full flavor of 3, I think, man, it's close. But I liked the heat. Although it didn't, oh man, maybe I'd switch 3 and 4.
Man, now 2 is like a little chocolatey to me, maybe.
Oh.
Yeah, mine would be, I think, between 1 and 4.
Okay.
And then 2 would be like second place. And then 3 would be last. But I'm going to try 3 one more time in a second.
Oh, you know what? After having those, 2 is a little bit better. I'm getting a little bit more at the end there, which I wasn't getting at first.
I mean, this is one of those situations too where all of these are like really good.
Oh yeah.
Like
totally.
I would take any of them, you know. So even though I'm ranking them in like a placement, one isn't like significantly better than another, you know.
Yes.
Except 3, we'll see. I do like that nose though.
I'm 3. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's just it's a great scent. Yeah, maybe 3 is number 1. Damn. That's close. For me, it's between 3 and 4.
Now 3, like, is tasting pretty good now after going back to it.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with 4. I think 4 is still my number 1, but 3 is really close. Damn.
Let me do 4 again real quick. Knock it back.
Like I said, I wouldn't have guessed. I would have guessed these would be a lot closer than they are. It's definitely, I think I can definitely tell it's like a good base or a similar base. The recipe.
Yeah, for sure. You can tell it's from the same house.
Yes, there you go.
Damn, somehow 3 ended up in the front.
Oh.
And I think 4 is last. I don't know where 1 and 2 lie.
Oh, damn. Okay, so I'm going 4, 3, 1, 2.
It's going to be funny if 3 is a reserve bar. All right, let's hear these
You ready?
results.
Okay, you want to do 1 through 4?
Yeah, we'll go 1 through 4. So right now I have my placement would be 3, and then 1 and 2 are kind of the same, and then 4 is last, I guess.
Okay. So none of us chose Reserve Bar, and Reserve Bar is number 1.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah. So number 2 is Bourbon and Whiskey Society.
Okay.
Number 3 is Total Wine. And number 4, BevMo. God damn,
okay.
I put BevMo up front. I'm sorry, everyone. And I'm sorry if
Wine and BevMo win. I guess, I mean, maybe there's going to be some folks that are like, oh, their palates are just bullshit.
Right.
Not the ones from like real drinkers.
I'm going to go Infinity on this shit and mix it up.
Which one was Reserve again?
Reserve
2
was
or 1?
Reserve was number 1.
Man, interesting. Yeah, I thought
that was the least spicy. We both you and I agreed that was
that one I felt was like pretty spicy.
Number 1,
it was 2 that was
2 was
less.
You're right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, because I remember when Brian, who did that pick, came on the show to talk about his Reserve Bar picks. I remember we tried it together on the show, and I thought it was good, but we drank like a lot. I think by the time we got to Sagamore, I was like I was toast, dude. Like the picture, if you scroll down the Drinks in a Movie Instagram, like the pictures there of everything we did, like all his picks for Reserve Bar when he was still working there. And when Sagamore came, it was like, oh man, we were, I was, because he was like spitting. I don't like to do that.
Can't spit. I was like, it's so good. Why would you spit this out?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, if they're given to me and it's free and whatnot, like, sure, I would do that. But yeah, I don't want to waste it, man, especially if I put money into it, you know? Yeah. And then I bought the bottle once it released because I got to taste it before it came out. And then I got it when it released. And I just did not like the finish, did not like the aftertaste. I'm going to pour myself a little more of that one, though. So I think it's this back one here. Yeah. Reserve Bar. Top Flight Series. Barrel 163.
And that one was unopened. You had not.
No, it was, so all of them were open.
Okay.
And the good thing is they were all about the same.
Yeah.
Like I only got like neck pours. I think the one I drank the most out of was actually Total Wine, if I'm not mistaken, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I guess BevMo. That one's the most empty.
I almost, by the way, feel bad throwing away a bottle of Sagamore too, just because the bottles they're just so, the glass feels so well constructed. It feels almost artistic. I mean, I know I'm, once again, sucking Sagamore off. We bought a candle while we were there too, and it's perfect. The glass is really nice on this.
I do like that candle idea. And I remember you sent me the link to their website. I'm like, that's
super
actually pretty dope.
We'll order more.
If you want to pour any more of these, man,
I'm gonna go finish my. I mixed them up. Yeah, the
Matt Lackey small batch.
There we go.
But oh God, it's so funny. He was talking about too, like maybe helping me do a pick, like through Reserve Bar.
Sure.
And the ones I was like, dude, Knob Creek Rye or Sagamore Rye. Like if I can get like one of those, like that's the top shit that I want. Nelson Greenbrier, if you are ever going to do any single barrels, like I want that too. Just so you know, I'm just putting it out there.
Hit him up.
But Unbreakable.
I'm in the Philadelphia City Hospital. Where were you sitting on the train?
Against the window.
In the passenger car? Yes. You're certain?
Where are the other passengers?
Your train derailed. Took a curve too fast. A second train collided with yours after it derailed. The debris spread over 1 mile.
Why are you looking at me like that?
There are 2 reasons why I'm looking at you like this. 1, because it seems you are the only survivor of this train wreck. And 2, you don't have a scratch on you.
I know what's going through your mind right now. You're searching for meaning in all of this. Know one thing. 131 people died so you could finally understand the destiny for which you were born. Are you ready for the truth?
So I saw this movie for the first time just probably during pandemic time, I think.
Wow,
yeah,
okay.
I did not see it when it came out, man.
Have you seen any of other of Knight's films in theater? Okay.
Well, in theaters, I saw Signs in theaters. I saw The Village in theaters, and I think that was it. I don't think I've seen any of his other movies in theaters. I watched Old on a plane. I watched Knock Knock or whatever. I
haven't seen a lot of his
Knock
stuff.
at the Cabin. I saw on a plane. Sixth Sense I saw on videotape when my parents rented it. But Unbreakable, sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I just never saw it, and I finally watched it. I think when Glass came out, 2019, I want to say. So I'm guessing I watched it right before Glass came out.
Makes sense.
And I remember thinking like, oh shit, like this movie is pretty damn good. This is interesting.
Right.
And the fact that it's like so predates the comic stuff that would come, later that decade is very interesting. And, I was hanging out at Sally's pad while she was at work. And then this movie was on, I think, Peacock. I want to say, I don't know, maybe Max.
I watched
or
it on
something.
Max, but yeah,
maybe it was Max because that's what, she's got that over at the pad. And I was like, you know what, Unbreakable, like I'll watch this again. So this is kind of impromptu. I just watched it a few days ago. So I brought up, hey, let's talk about this. So only my second viewing. I love it, man. It impacted me just as much a second time as it did the first. I wonder how I would have thought of it at the time if I saw it when it first came out. And now passing it on to you. I mean, did you see this in theaters when it first dropped?
It's possible I saw it twice. I can't remember. As a person who grew up with comics, I didn't read a ton, but my dad is a huge comic collector.
Right.
And at the time, I had no idea that this was going to be a comic book movie or a movie influenced by comics. I don't remember a lot of the marketing, but I remember the trailer very clearly. And the idea was that he's the only survivor of a train accident and he doesn't have a scratch on him. And so that immediately, I'm totally hooked into this. I didn't see Sixth Sense in theaters, but I saw it pretty quickly after. I'm sure it did huge money on rentals and DVDs and all that kind of stuff. And so I knew I wanted to see this film just because of his filmmaking. I'm like, okay, this guy knows. I want to see this guy's films. And it's almost tough for me to think back, not having watched many of his DVDs of the stories of the time. So like Signs, Unbreakable, Sixth Sense, the films that came out at that time. He would always do commentaries on his DVDs. And so I felt like M. Night Shyamalan is part of my film school because there's so much you could learn from these commentaries, in my opinion, at the time. But the movie itself was just unlike anything I expected in that it didn't use all these big action pieces, yet I was totally hooked and so into it. And at the time when I was watching it in theaters, I had only been into film for I'd say around Jurassic Park time is when I really started to get into film and stuff like that, because that's when Clerks came out and Pulp Fiction, all that kind of stuff. And so I just started to become aware of some of the techniques filmmakers use to hook audiences in. And I was like, why did I have such a great experience with this film? And you go back and you listen to the commentary, you watch all this stuff, and you realize he's doing these longer takes and these things that create interest without upstaging the performances from the actors, which are awesome, a great story, which it's written very well, all those little things. And it makes some of the bigger scenes that aren't action pieces really pay off in this film. The fact that there's so much interest and stuff built in throughout. I love this film. I watched it many times. I almost didn't think I had to watch it again. And I'm glad I did before we talked about this, because I realized I remember every single scene. I've watched this movie many a times and I really love it. I don't think we've even really seen a comic book movie like this since then. It's a really unique and interesting piece of cinema that I'm surprised because it was successful at the box office. I'm surprised we didn't see more films take this approach, and maybe only he could do it. I don't know. It's super interesting.
I don't think since or even before.
No.
And if we're wrong, if you're listening, leave
Please
a comment
correct us,
on the Instagram. Like I would be interested to hear. And yeah, with the marketing, it never came off that way. And I was watching an interview on the way here because I didn't have enough time to do much research, but he talked about that very thing, how they wanted to market it differently. And even when he first pitched the idea and was trying to work on making it happen, they wanted to get rid of the powers that be, invested money people, right? Wanted to get rid of the comic aspect of it altogether.
That makes a lot of sense.
But he's like, well, that's like
the whole movie.
That's the whole movie. The whole movie, right? Yeah. And, you know, somehow they ended up doing it and getting it to work. But clearly they marketed it as just like a thriller. Unfortunately, it probably... I mean, and also he's riding off the coattails of The Sixth Sense, right? He had a big success.
Big, huge hit.
Now there's this expectation. So,
and he released it. I didn't realize it came out the next year.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
That's
right?
wild.
Yeah, he said that he started writing it while he was editing Sixth Sense.
Oh, interesting.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, I guess with that movie blowing up, he must have. I'm sure they were knocking at his door, like, all right, what do you got? He's like, boom, here it is.
We don't even know. We don't care. I'm just going to make it.
Bruce Willis, Samuel Jackson. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, can't go wrong.
Yeah.
But I think there's an interesting. So I know I bring up Ebert a lot, Roger Ebert, and he wrote an interesting paragraph. I just want to read it really quick.
Yeah,
it's just
please.
a sentence too. There's this theory in Hollywood these days that the audiences have shorter attention spans and must be distracted by nonstop comic book action.
And he was saying this in 2000.
2000, yes.
Oh, man.
Ironic that a movie about a student of comic book universes would require attention and patience on the part of the audience. Moviegoers grateful for the slow unfolding of The Sixth Sense will like this one too. And I think that's so interesting and something that you would think the next generation might have been inspired by, but we didn't necessarily see that. Like we don't see movies like this in that sense. And so I just thought that was interesting that he was already noticing by 2000, before we'd have any Avengers movie and no Iron Man, we've had Batman, we've had some other films, but like at this point, you know, it's so interesting that that's the thing that hit and audiences still flock to it. There is this in marketing and in cinema and in TV and all these different things. There is this thought process that we have short attention spans. And I continually argue that that's not necessarily the case. We just want to you have to find things that keep audiences interested and intrigued. And I feel like that's what this film does so well. I always bring up Breaking Bad too. Breaking Bad is this show that took 5 seasons to unfold, and audiences were hooked every single episode, wanting to know what happens next. And it wasn't fast cuts and all that kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge fan of action films that cut every 2 seconds too. At the same time, a film like this can exist and it can be interesting to audiences, and audiences will see it. So my little rant there.
Yeah, I mean, and I wonder how many people saw it based on, well, because I guess nobody knew that's what it was going to be about, right? But they're just, the Sixth Sense guy, you know? Which I think maybe it may have worked in the favor. This seems like one that probably picked up more on like the DVD.
I would imagine.
Aftermarket. And I remember a friend of mine, this was probably around the time like Iron Man came out, like, and that stuff was starting. I remember my friend Philip, shout out. Haven't seen you in years. Hope you're doing well. Well, I remember he saw this movie and he was talking to me about it. And it was through him that I heard what it was actually about. Because it was definitely not any.
Oh, no.
I'm like, that's interesting. And of course, it would still take me years to finally like watch it. Because I was also in an era where if I wanted to see a new movie, I was renting it.
Yep.
Or I was just going out and buying the DVD.
Right.
You know, now it's like, oh, Unbreakable streaming, cool.
I still have my Blu-ray of it, and I watched it on Max, of course, because it's like more convenient.
No, I'm gonna order a Blu-ray when we're done here for sure, because I'm like, this is worth owning.
Yeah, the commentary track is really good, so that alone is worth it.
I would love to hear that. I wish I would have been able,
especially his thoughts around like 2001. You know, he hasn't made the films that there's not 20 years of films he's made since then. So it's an interesting time in history, and the confidence he has is pretty impressive because you got to make some calls in this film, and the fact that you're not cutting all the time, like to have that kind of trust in your performances, and some of them involve a kid who does a great performance, by the way. You got to have some confidence as a filmmaker.
He did say, so this one interview I got to watch that I think came out around the time of Glass.
Okay.
He did talk about that. So he was like 29 when he made this movie, which is crazy.
That's wild.
And he talks about, you know, the like working with like Bruce Willis and Samuel Jackson were already icons at this point. And he said he loved Pulp Fiction too much. That's why so much that he's like, I want those two guys here.
That's so cool.
And I will, if I'm going to take like a sidebar real quick is I love, man, their performances are both so good. I love seeing Bruce Willis play this really kind of soft spoken,
so against
just
type.
Not really like happy with his life, but not vocal. Doesn't wear it on his sleeve. Just kind of is going through the motions like most people. Type of character. I love Samuel Jackson in this, who's like tormented and
empathetic.
Trying to find.
I actually felt for him.
Very much empathetic and just trying to find his purpose. And you buy why he is
doing the
things he's doing. And I'm like, man, what a great like team together these guys are. And they were in Pulp Fiction. That's right. And then I was thinking, yo, Die Hard with a Vengeance. Like, that's right. They were like
Zeus
buddy cop shit in that movie. And I love because I feel like it could be very easy. It's those two guys again. But when I watch this movie, there's not a moment where I'm thinking about John McClane and Zeus and the fact that they've already teamed up. You know what I mean?
Totally, man.
It's like I just buy these characters, Elijah and David Dunn, in this world. And I'm like, man, they might be underappreciated actors, maybe. I don't know.
Die Hard. There are so many Bruce Willis films I just freaking love. And this might be my favorite performance of his.
Dude, the
movie doesn't work without his performance, man. Like, and don't worry, Samuel Jackson, I appreciated his performance even more watching it nowadays. I haven't watched it probably in 10 or 15 years. But I even think about the first scene we were watching in the train where you see he makes these choices where he suddenly takes off his ring. He's trying to flirt and it's not all that successful. He doesn't really know because you can just see he's playing this kind of aloof character, like so against type. Yeah. And we totally buy it right from the beginning. I totally agree with you that, like, first of all, if he doesn't pull off this performance, the movie doesn't work. But then secondly, to have the kind of, you have to be confident as an actor to go there. And I'm a fan of Kevin Smith. So you hear these stories. Kevin talks about working with Bruce, where Bruce Willis does the Bruce Willis thing in a Bruce Willis film, right? So, you've heard these stories. So you go in with that baggage and then you realize, no, man, the guy's giving a performance, man. And like almost, I am on the edge of my seat with every scene that he's in, which is basically the whole movie.
And like you said from the get-go, because to me, he's really playing sadness throughout, because we come to realize it's, like his relationship is on the rocks. They're probably going to split. He gets in this accident, second chance. But when we learn about his past, I know his football career ended because this accident, but really it turns out he was fine, but the choice was her or the sport. And he chose the woman he would end up marrying. Yeah. And then now it's not working. So he chose her, but also isn't doing the thing that fulfills him.
And he suppresses these things at this point. So he barely remembers them.
And it's like, my take is I think he does remember it. He just like kind of ignores it. Yeah. And then he has to be the security guard, like at the football stadium, and watch these people play all the time. So he just
definitely got that.
It's just a layer of sadness under the whole thing. And I love when he does his first hero act of saving those kids and stopping that guy. You can see the next morning he's there with his wife and they're talking. The whole vibe is so different. And when he gives the paper to his son, and he looks so emotional when he's telling him, like, without words, like, that was me.
That was me.
And he looks like
I almost got choked up this time watching it, dude.
He looks like he's going to cry, and he's just telling his kid to not say anything. But he's now fulfilled. And it's like what Elijah was saying. It's you chose security. Like, you just inherently want to protect. Yes. You're that person. And even when he goes to talk to Elijah in that final scene, he's clearly a much happier person. Obviously until the reveal.
And once again, the way that it's executed, I think, is so interesting because the character has a full arc. And in fact, most of the characters have an arc in this. The almost everyone is somewhere different than where they started the film. And so this is where Bruce Willis is like so subtle with it. Just that little bit of a smile that he gives to his kids. Almost the first time we see him smile in the entire film.
Yeah.
And because it's so subtle and because he hasn't done it throughout the hour and 45 we've been with him, it has so much impact. Just this little tiny smirk he gives the kid, dude, that scene hit hard. I assume that's one of those things too, as you get older, you experience more things. You can relate to him that he's found some satisfaction in life. not everyone gets to experience that sometimes. And the times you do is usually fleeting. So like the fact that he's gotten there, you're happy for him. Damn, what a great moment.
I didn't realize too that there were so many longer takes and like the camera just holds for a while and that says a lot, especially for me, who's someone who looks for that kind of thing.
Sure.
It says a lot that I wasn't looking for that. I was just in everything they're saying and like in that moment.
The cool thing about it too is like in Sixth Sense, there's a scene in the kitchen where at the kitchen table where, you know, there's these long takes and then all of a sudden all of the cabinets are open and stuff like that. He didn't use it as a trick this time. Like it's there just to let the performances and to keep you interested and intrigued. Yeah. There's nothing, it doesn't seem like a gimmick to me. And I'm not saying it's a gimmick in Sixth Sense. It's absolutely intentional in Sixth Sense. I'm saying that it absolutely like supports and enhances what's going on in front of the camera. And I think that's a really smart choice to do it.
I think there is a fair amount too. Like his compositions are really good and they're really great in this movie. And there's a lot of frames within frames.
Yes.
Doorways and rooms.
Reflections.
Window. Reflect. Mr. Glass, reflections and windows, glass, all that stuff. And I feel like if you were to look at the movie, maybe not frame by frame, but shot by shot, there would be a lot of kind of comic book panel looking kind of compositions, totally you know, like it's all clearly by design. I think that's why there's so many frames within frames and the way shots are laid out, which is, I think is brilliant. I mean, I haven't seen all his films and I've only seen Sixth Sense the one time.
Oh, like,
I need to
get. Oh, you gotta watch it the second. That's the fun of it, dude.
I gotta go back and watch. I haven't seen it since it came out, you know, and I was a little guy. I didn't even quite, you know. But he just ruined it for a whole generation.
Well, you say that, but I mean, there's a lot of kids who weren't born when that movie came out. So there you go. Sorry.
But that's what I'm saying. They're listening to this.
I know.
There's people that are 21 years old right now that have probably weren't around for that movie.
That was like a whole cultural event.
It was. You know? Isn't it crazy, right? A whole culture event. Because I feel like Shyamalan really kind of fell off. And there's some work I've seen of him where I'm like, that's your writing, dude? Like, you wrote that, like that dialogue right there, you know. But all that to say, I think this movie, and it's funny, like the year after Sixth Sense, like, and then Signs would be the next film. Signs like really fucking impacted me. We should probably talk about that soon. I haven't seen that in years.
I'm a fan of that one too. I like this one better, but Signs is really
Signs is gnarly, man. Like I think I saw it at just the right moment in my life where for a while that was the scariest movie I'd ever seen in my life.
Really?
Yeah, I shit you not.
Wow.
I shit you not. But this is like peak M. Night Shyamalan, man. Just peak the shots, composition, writing, story, acting, direction, all of it. There's maybe like aspects of it that are kind of outdated. Like musically, it's like, oh, that's super 90s.
Yeah, you know? I bumped on this time too.
I do not mind it. I will take it, dude. I will take it.
I know usually we hit beat, a lot of times we do beat by beat. I don't think we need to, but I did want to hit a couple of the set pieces in this film because they're freaking awesome. One of the first ones for me is when he starts lifting weights, and it's a scene like that where it's so simple. So at this point, we've already revealed, like, you know, how many days have you been sick? That's a lot of what sets the plot in motion in this film. And so Bruce starts questioning kind of everything about himself, right? Like his character, David Dunn. And I remember in the theater being on the edge of my seat. I felt like the kid in that scene when I was in the theater. Because at that point, I guess I'm 18 years old when I'm watching it in theaters. So, but for some reason, I could really relate to the kid, like almost scary. Like, what is my dad doing right now? And that he keeps lifting it. It's so methodical, but you know, with each individual one, you're totally on board, but you don't want to see him get hurt. There's all these great things that are backed behind it. And I even appreciate it. Even to this day, I'm on the edge of my seat and I know the outcome of that scene. Right. Like just the way it's edited and cut and everything is just a very well done scene.
Well, I love that his son adds more weight without telling him.
Without telling him, right?
And then, you know, this is really dangerous. You shouldn't do anything like this. Let's put a little more, you know, and they just keep going. And I don't know if you noticed, but each shot of him like bench pressing again, his son, he is like standing.
Yeah, he gets farther back. Yeah, that's why I felt like him.
Yeah, further and further away.
Like, what the hell is my dad Superman? That's how that's how I related to.
Man, that scene when he pulls the gun on him
read my mind. Dude.
Oh my god! Even for me, like second time viewing, right? Even knowing it's gonna be okay, that shit is fucking hard to watch.
It's Hitchcock always talks about this. It's not necessarily the bomb under the table. It's just waiting a little bit longer. And it's the bomb not going off. It's waiting for the bomb to go off. And this is not an exact example of that. Just the fact that the child is holding a gun. It almost hits harder nowadays, 20 something years later, after all of the goddamn shootings we've had in this country. Like, I think about a child with a gun is just terrifying. And the way that this is executed, it seems so real. And the release of it where Robin Wright drops to the floor. I mean, just everything about it is so masterfully done. How do you talk a child out of this? So good. So well executed and just edge of your seat perfect.
Yeah. And the way they try a few different tactics where he's like, dude, you're going to kill me.
Yes.
Right? Please don't kill me. To, all right, fine. You're right. I am. It's just gonna bounce off me, but we don't shoot friends. Really trying to reach this kid.
The interesting thing too is,
and then when he cocks it back,
oh man,
he's gonna. Oh man, it's rough.
As the audience too, the interesting part about that is, okay, if he gets shot, what happens? Like, we're kind of interested in that outcome or at least I was as an audience member, and.
Yeah, because at this point, it really can go either way. It's like
we know there's something
you
super about
believe he's special, but also is it really just gonna bounce off this man? You know what I mean? He could still potentially be killed.
So there's so many interesting facets to it for sure, man. I don't know. It might be one of the best scenes in the film. It's just so so nerve wracking.
Because even before there's a moment, because he has a lot of back and forths with Elijah, Samuel Jackson's character, Mr. Glass, about when he finds out from the teacher or whatever counselor at the school about, he was the boy that almost drowned.
Yeah.
And he tells him I'm not, invincible. Like, I almost drowned. I almost died. That was a whole thing. That's why I'm afraid of water. I got pneumonia. I got sick.
Right.
I did get sick. And Elijah's like, well, I never said you couldn't be killed. I never said that you can't die. Totally, I'm just, So that also opened the door to make this moment really effective of sure, he may have survived the car crash and the plane crash, but maybe a bullet can kill him. I don't know.
For real, right?
What happens if he gets shot in the head? Who knows?
No, for real. Yeah, that's like a real thing. It also highlights how every great film we've talked about, every single detail matters. There's nothing that's there for just to be there. And the fact that David Dunn has a gun in his closet. Like, there's a scene where he opens up the closet and he's looking through his clippings and stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, that was to establish that this gun's going to pay, that there's a gun in the house. And
Chekhov's gun.
Dude, right? I appreciated that even more. And I think that's kind of the fun of, especially when M. Night Shyamalan has been at his best, like, all these details matter and they all pay off at some point. We talk about it all the time. And so the gun, there's a reason that's in the house. He's security. He's had some bad experiences, all those kind of things. At the same time, it's going to be a problem. Having a gun in the house. Who would have thought a gun in the house where there's child is a problem? Mm-hmm. But so I just think that whole thing is it highlights how much the details are important leading up to that point too.
It's funny too, just like the cunning of the kid, right? And how they weren't even aware when even David tells the wife during the gun part.
The bullets.
Exactly, the bullet part. He's just like, it's all right. He doesn't know where the bullets are. You keep them in your trophy, your football trophy. It's like, and then it gets very real right there. It's like, oh shit. I want to go back, man, to that opening scene. I love how really the catalyst is Elijah, Mr. Glass, and I love the opening. This kind of eerie opening, and again, shot with the reflections of mirrors and glass and all that of the doctor, the baby being born, 1961, whatever. Yep. And was this baby dropped? All his bones are broken.
Great performances too, by the way.
And it's really oh shit, that's sad. It's very sad right out the gate, And then I love how it will flash back, have these scenes to him growing up and being a kid.
What's it like to grow up where every freaking bone breaks in your body? Yeah. Just being touched.
And getting in love with the comics in the first place because his mom wants him to go out and be somebody basically.
And I think a lot of people who read comics understand the escapism in it. It takes you. It's one of the nice things about them is it's these fantasies. They take you different places, and I think a lot of us who fell in love with. Now, I am not a diehard comic person, but there's a couple of authors and titles that I've really enjoyed, and it's the fact that it takes you someplace you haven't been before. That's one of the great things about comics, and it obviously sparks his imagination for sure.
And he said at one point, I've spent over a third of my life in hospitals, hospital beds,
without a cell phone.
All I can do is read, and this is my world. And I love that concept. Well, man, it's crazy too because it's based off of it's a real disease. And
That is a real disease?
Yeah,
Okay, I never looked it up.
maybe did I? I think I did. Okay, fact check me, people. But he says I believe that it could be. It's got to be right. But he says this is just like
Yes, it is actually a real disease, genetic disorder.
yeah, and he said that this is just phase 1 of it. There's two, or level 1.
Yeah,
He's like,
there's 4 stages.
2, yeah, stage. Yeah, he's like, there's stage 2, 3, and 4. Like mine's the tamest one, which is crazy.
That's wild,
dude.
right? Ugh.
And when he's like, yeah, 3s and 4s don't last very long. And oh man, you really feel for him. You super feel for him. I forgot exactly where I was going with that.
Ebert's review talked about how, Samuel L. Jackson's character, Elijah, does some things that as an audience may, anger you or you may not necessarily agree with. And I had the exact opposite experience with it. I was empathetic to his place in life almost the entire film.
The whole time.
Yeah. And part of it's the writing. At the same time, his performance is so good. Maybe because I appreciate collectors, and even though I'm not a collector myself of many things, like when he kicks the guy out of his art gallery for not appreciating his art.
Because he's going to give it to his kid.
He's going to give it to his kid. Okay, he cares enough about the art. Mm-hmm. Maybe because I'm into art, or I'm into artists, I should say, that, I respect him for, having some standards and stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, I also got to keep a roof over my head, so I would have made the sale. But, at the same time, there were so many things he does that I actually feel like make it okay or reasonable or access to him. Like I actually care about his character almost to the bitter end. And then I realize he's unfortunately a murderer. And I'm like that, it makes it even more painful that he did those things. And it makes it totally understandable, but like it makes it more painful that he did kill all these people just to, to find this solace in life. I mean,
his purpose and
his purpose. Yes.
I mean, I've got to watch the movie way more, but I feel like there's potentially a lot to grab from that reveal where, and the way he delivers it and the lines when he's telling them and sometimes the arch nemesis and it's the best,
right.
Sometimes it's his friend or whatever. And he's so emotional the way he explains it that it almost feels like maybe he thought he was the hero. And in that moment through finding David,
realized.
Now it's the realization of I'm the bad guy, but he's going to own it because that's his lot in life. And the way he takes it, he's like, well, now this is my purpose, and man, I just love this whole concept too of, if I can be so delicate and I can break, then surely there's got to be somebody who's the other side of that. There has to be.
There has to be opposite forces.
And I'm going to find that person.
In existence, yeah. I think a lot of us can relate to that. They're just these things, these cosmic forces of the universe have to exist. Right? I don't necessarily... I personally think he's kind of the bad guy from the beginning because he set up all these different things before he even knew that person existed. At the same time, the fact that it's getting us to talk about... But we didn't
know that it was him.
Totally. That's fair. But my point is that he did bad things before he even knew Bruce Willis's character existed. He just assumed somebody like this. So I got to kill a bunch of people to get to that point. Kind of a fucked up thing, man.
Yeah. I guess right off the bat, I didn't assume right. I didn't.
I guess watching it, multiple times.
Yeah, the first time, I never assumed he must have set the hotel fire.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. I think I agree with you. As you're watching it the first time, it's not apparent that he's the bad guy until literally probably the very end. I agree with that.
And I guess looking back, it can be obvious. Even the color scheme, the purple, and of course he's the bullied, tormented person.
Yes, totally.
But also. Because he's kind of mentoring. It's he's trying to tell him.
He's helping Bruce Willis discover himself.
Exactly. You inherently you want to protect people. Yeah. That's what you're here for. Right. And he's you even pick security. That's it. You did that. You knew he had the gun. You knew this. And I love the portrayal. How it's not so literal.
No.
As he's saying, he's this has just been. Maybe it's based off some reality, but it's been commercialized and this and that and made into sensationalized. So you're not quite that, but you are, beyond other people. And even the portrayal, when he touches someone, he can see glimpses and maybe it's really just an intense instinct,
Because we're out there questioning it. The scene where M. Night Shyamalan is actually in the film.
Yeah.
The drug dealer, you can tell on Bruce Willis's face that the guy didn't have the drugs on him. So he was well, am I right? Kind of questioning, is this intuition just ridiculous or, is it a real thing? So there are all those things that get in the way of that and make you second guess for sure. I totally agree with that.
Again, too, and the fact that he's never really paid attention, so he hasn't honed it. You know what I mean? So there's the moment when he's starting to possibly accept who he is when he goes out and it's like, I think the train station, I don't know, some like
scenes,
with all the crowds and the people, and he's just letting people bump into him, and he's seeing all these things, and the reality of, I can't do everything. I'm one man.
Right. So
and he's seeing all these evil deeds, but all right, here's something I can potentially
help with.
Yeah, help with. And Elijah says it at one point in the voiceover. He's like, it's not as simple as just like panels on a comic, but like life is not like that. Like you might have these abilities, but you know, real life doesn't work that way.
For real. And at the same time, it almost makes me like appreciate or consider what superheroes might have to actually go through in the real world. Mm-hmm. You can't save everyone. In fact, it's a trope that gets used throughout comic books all the time, where like you might have to make a choice. You know, Dark Knight's a great example where you got to save save the boat or save your girlfriend and what's his face and Two-Face and everything. So all those things, I think it's just really interesting. There was this. Just one more point to make about the Elijah character and his empathy. The scene where he falls down the stairs chasing the guy, the fact that it's so painful, but it's also because we care about him. That's what makes it even more impactful.
Yes,
you know?
I'm glad you brought that up.
Oh man, that scene is so painful. And it's not just that his bones are breaking, it's that we care about him at the same time, man. So true. That's when you know the movie's working.
Yeah. No, that's a really great point. I'm glad you brought that up. Man, I love the shot too, like the cane first breaking. And you almost think because, all right, he gave us that shot. We're not going to have to sit through him like falling down these stairs. And then he shows you. Dude. I forgot that it plays out that way.
It's just as painful now as I was watching it as when I was in the theater, man.
And what's funny is it's not overdone. No. It's not gory. You're not seeing like arms get inverted the wrong way or anything crazy like that. But because you know it's in your head, you know how delicate he is. He's already had 54 breaks or whatever. See that. And then his performance too, like when he gets to the stairs and he thinks about it for a second, he's like, fuck, should I do this? But he believes in David Dunn so much that he's willing to sacrifice himself to get this answer. Thank goodness he does get the answer too, luckily. But yeah, man, scary.
Something that I found interesting as I was relooking at some of the critical response to the film and everything, a lot of positive reviews from critics and stuff, but there was this sentiment a little bit critical of the ending to this film, that it just ends there. It's not the most satisfying ending to a film that is so much buildup and so much buildup and so much buildup. I feel like the ending is very satisfying. I guess some of that criticism is fair. I'm curious how else you could have ended a film like this, where it's so much about the journey that these characters go on. I was wondering like what you might have expected as an ending from this. Let me ask you this. Was the ending satisfying for you? Did you appreciate the ending? How did you feel about the ending, having only watched this a few times?
So I thought it was just all right. When I saw it, I had that same feeling where I'm like, oh, this is how it ends? That's pretty weird. But also I'm watching this at a time where Glass is about to come out. So we know like, and it's 19 years later.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think if I saw it in theaters, I probably would have been like, really? That's right. And then even having the text, like as if it was real, like he would spend the next years and whatever prison, and David Dunn went on to do this. It's like, that's weird. And as he just walks away, it's really odd.
It's logical, but there's nothing extraordinary about it, or it doesn't feel like a huge. The punctuation is somewhat muted. It feels like for this ending, you know.
And I guess because it kind of ends on a sad note, right? Totally. Of the realization, like David Dunn finally is accepting who he is and coming to terms and understanding it and realizing he can use it to do some good in the world. And Elijah, all right, we're friends now. This is great. But they do set it up too. I love the setup of him talking to his mom. Oh, it's so nice to meet you. You know, he's my friend. And she talks about the villain's eyes and their skewed perspective of the world. And there's the villain, that the soldier that fights hand to hand, but then there's the arch nemesis that fights them with their mind. You know what I mean? And so right then they're telling you like, oh, this is going to be that moment. And I love the way it plays out, and it's emotional, but it does feel kind of abrupt. And I think I would have felt robbed maybe if I saw it at the same time, or at the time it came out. But also to your point, I'm not sure what I would have wanted to happen.
I keep thinking about that. What else would have? It's so logical. What else could I have expected? I don't know.
Like if I was asked, like if they're, hey Rudy, write the ending to this, whatever you want. Like I don't even know what I would do. I think naturally, maybe I would have wanted another triumphant kind of hero moment from David.
For sure.
Because I think we're used to that.
That makes sense.
Where it's like, all right, let's see him do the thing one more time and like really be the hero and end on like the hero shot. You know, he's on the building by the American flag. Whatever.
Right. You know, like
but so on that note, I like that it kind of goes the way it does. Yeah, so it's a little conflicting, but it's easy for me because it's like, all right, well, I know that glass exists.
Right.
Which has its own little problems, but you'll find out.
I can't wait. Now I'm literally going to watch them tonight because after watching, okay, it's time to watch these other films. So I haven't watched them yet. So one other thing I wanted to comment on was watching it again recently. I appreciated Robin Wright's character and performance. Her character is so important to establish, in my opinion, establishing that this is a real place and a real world and that there are real problems and things like that. And what I mean by that is that the relationship between her and Bruce, David Dunn's character, feels so real. I think we empathize even more with David Dunn's character because you see the relationship on the rocks. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for any of us who have ever gone through a relationship and it ended, you know that where you're not, if you've been through this, where you're not necessarily ready to just completely cut ties with your partner, you're still holding on for just any sort of scraps. That's felt really real to me. And I think it was because of the writing and at the same time, because of their performance, they're so good in it. It helps support that this is a real world these people live in. And so I appreciated that even more watching it this time through. Because like her character could have just been, I don't want to say pointless, but only there for one note. But she actually has to be a real person. She gets pissed off or gets concerned when Mr. Glass comes in and Elijah starts asking her questions about, different things. All those little things definitely help sell this whole bigger story idea. And so without her, it might not have had the weight that it did without her character and her performance.
Yeah, she's important too, to kind of being almost the devil's advocate of maybe he's not this. Like that scene when he asks her, like, do you remember me getting sick? And this, and I completely buy that she's like, I don't know, dude. Like, yeah, I guess so.
Who remembers that shit?
Maybe, yeah, exactly. And it's like, I could buy that, to an extent. And then the fact that Elijah would seek her out in his physical therapy to question her separately from David.
It's intentional. Yeah. Like that character is really important to selling all these different things. And the fact that she gave it some actual full dimensions to it. Could have been a one-dimensional character. And the fact that it has these aspects to him are really interesting, I think.
Yeah, man.
So,
man, I think that might be all I got for this one. What about you?
It's a great film. If you haven't seen it yet, highly recommend. I'm almost embarrassed that I haven't seen, the other two in the series, because Unbreakable is, it's the trilogy apparently at this point.
I remember when people were talking about Split.
Yeah.
In that ending, like that was the twist.
That was the thing.
Ending. Okay. I was like, oh shit, really? And I was like, maybe I'll go watch this now. And I
know the actor who plays the kid ends up in, ends up later in films too. So
it's
actually the same actor.
He comes back.
That's cool.
Which was great. Yeah, man. It did make me wish. I'm like, man, how amazing it must have felt to be one of the people that thought Unbreakable was a great movie, but no one else cared. Everyone, totally. Whatever, Sixth Sense signs, because Unbreakable, it does feel like it kind of fell into obscurity, maybe.
People don't talk about it.
Yeah, people weren't ready for it. You know? And it's funny too, especially now, post the Marvel
thing
shit and where we're at now. Yeah, it's to go back and watch that, it's like, man, dude, you were on one. You were so fucking ahead of the game.
Oh, really, dude? Making superheroes real people, real characters.
Man, you know what? Another movie I watched again recently that I've only seen for the second time, that I also watched a decade or more after it came out, was Watchmen. Zack Snyder's Watchmen.
I love Watchmen,
dude, and that's another one where I'm like, man, people were not fucking ready for this at the time. It's it's sad when you see the folks, the filmmakers that were, again, so ahead of the curve.
Watchmen is
it's
so
good.
Man,
it's good.
I love Watchmen. The director's cut's even better. I could watch an 8-hour Watchmen film, just to let you know. I want it all.
Man, but yeah, it must have felt good to watch Split and be like, oh shit, there it is. It's happening.
Right there.
We're doing it. But yeah,
it's definitely, you're not going to, it's only an hour 45 too. I didn't realize it was so short because it's so methodical. I was actually almost surprised at the running time. Mm-hmm. And that's why folks, if you haven't seen it, give it a chance. $1.45. It won't take up much of your time, and it never feels like it wastes your time, which I think is pretty cool.
No, perfect. Yeah, damn. Well, that's a wrap on this one. We just hit the hour mark. Sagamore Spirit, man. If you haven't tried it, go try them. Single barrel selects are all good. And Unbreakable, give it a watch. If you haven't seen it yet, hopefully you've seen it because you're listening to this. But even if you haven't, give it a watch. And yeah, leave a comment if you want to, if we said something that may have been a little off or disagree or agree, whatever.
Sure.
I don't know. Yeah.
We said something that was wrong.
So yeah. But yeah, that's a wrap on this one. Cool. Cheers. Thank you for listening to the Drinks in a Movie podcast. You can now find us on Instagram at Drinks in a Movie Pod, where we'll be posting photos from all the various films that we discuss. You can also email us at drinksinAmoviepod@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe, and thank you for listening.